Hey up and welcome to Callum's Corner. So, tonight's choice, as chosen by you guys on Twitter, is a story from my childhood, an embarrassing one that I'm quite ashamed of, if I'm honest. Okay, so, must have been about 12 or 13. I was in a school called Archbishop King. It was a religious school on the Isle of Wight where I was living at the time. There was a teacher there, a very tall one. He was massive. He was about 6'7" or something. He had a massive fro, like one of those kind of Jewish afros on top of his head. Really, really religious guy. In a religious school. And I think it was an Easter service coming up. We were having our packed lunches in the hall, and me and my mate saw he was setting up his like a slideshow to go in the service later. We had the priest in and stuff to do like a service, and then we'd sing hymns, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, we were setting up his slideshow, so me and my mate waited till the end after everyone left, and we altered a few slides. We just turned them upside down and put them in wrong order and stuff. Anyway, he was giving his presentation later that afternoon in the service, and it started to go wrong. Every time he pressed the button, the wrong slide came up, it was upside down, and he was getting so cross. And this guy was on the edge anyway, because he had this thing that he did. His spit would collect there, and as he got animated, and he got animated a lot, little bits would fly off, and everyone used to call him Spitfire, and we'd all duck under the desks and stuff, and he got really mad about it. I think he was reaching tipping point anyway, but this just tipped him over. He started shouting in the middle of this service, this assembly in the hall, "Who did this? I know this was the right way, I double checked it." Anyway, everyone kept quiet, and he just did not stop shouting. In the end, one of the teachers had to lead him out, a different one. It was brilliant. Well, no, I mean, it wasn't brilliant. As a kid, it was brilliant because it was so exciting, but I know now as an adult that, that's above and beyond what a teacher should have to put up with, you know what I mean? I do apologise now as a grown-up. I wish I hadn't done this, but at the time we all thought it was brilliant. Anyway, no one found out who it was for ages, but this guy at my school called Toby Hooper, who I really didn't like, heard me and my cousin Greg discussing it, and he went and told, and I got called to the head teacher's office. And the head teacher was a nun called Sister Dolores, and she's quite old, she's about 40 or so, but for some reason when I was called to her, you had to stand in front of her big desk, and she would basically sit there and shout at you. Anyway, that day one of her buttons was undone for some reason, and although she was an old nun, I was like 12, 13 and very, very hormonal at that time, and she did have, for a nun, quite large, and what were on display, boobs, dirty pillows. I couldn't help but my eyes were being drawn there, and I was mortified, but I started getting an erection. And she saw what was happening, and she saw where my eyes were going, and she just screamed at me, and I was made to stand outside her office with my back to the wall for the rest of that day. It was like 2 hours, almost fainted by the end of it. So yeah, it was so embarrassing. I could never look at her in the eye again, and she took me for maths as well. It was my worst subject. Yeah, so, I mean, that's a massively embarrassing story, and you're probably all going to judge me for it, but I've got it off my chest now. It's something from when I was young, I'm a different person, and yeah,